Hello. Alrighty, let's jump in, shall we? Oh, hang on. Alrighty, cool. So today we're going to be looking at assets, generally speaking. Next workshop we'll be looking at what the what? Hang on. There we go. Okay. Right, that's interesting. Okay. Um So the plan is making some assets for today for a Halloween space, and then extending a Halloween space in the next workshop. The old, not old, well, it's been around a while, I suppose. The Halloween space that we were using last year, we're going to be expanding into a new couple of more interactive experiences. So we'll be doing that next week with some of the teams, so that'll be interesting. But today we're going to be looking at a couple of things. And first, or second, let's go with first. First, I'd like to look at an asset that I purchased. So let's have a look. There we go. Alrighty. So recently, I purchased an asset online, and it's mostly good. And I'd like to discuss some of the approaches to, gotta get on that one. Approaches to buying assets and looking for things that will work in a WebGL space. So it has to be more optimized and things like that. So let me try something. I just need to get to the original website so I can show you what I bought. Excellent. So this is the one I purchased. I'm basically looking for sort of cemetery stuff. It's because it's Halloween, we didn't really have a choice. And with that, things to look for. So as noted in everything that I do, basically we're looking at poly count, material count, and file size, like texture file size. Now, of course, the file size could vary, and we can adjust that in Unity very easily. So depending on the type of texture, that depends. But in this case, we don't have detailed explanations of some of these things, but we have hints, right? So when looking at this asset, there's some things that I've noted. So we've got this one. So we've got high res textures, so high resolution textures. So that's let's say pros and cons for any asset that you're looking at. So a high res I would take as a con because of file size and maybe reducing that. That said, it may be okay, so that's a maybe. Normal maps, roughness maps. Unity uses smoothness maps, so we'll have to tweak that, but that's fine. That's just going into Photoshop and using invert. Metallic maps is the same sort of thing, so we may need to combine a smoothness map and a metallic map into one material, depending on how we go for time. And the rest of it, though, are other things like film or AAA game. These imply that the asset is quite high quality, which is great for this asset, but what that also might mean is that the polygon is quite high, or the textures are quite big, or the material counts, because if you're using a AAA game, especially now, with nanite and whatnot, you can kind of do whatever you want. Because their polycount key is like whatever you like, which is crazy technology. Hopefully we get that in web. Probably WebGPU might be able to push that eventually, but yeah, WebGL is a bit limited. So that's another red flag, if you will. PBR rate is fine. No triangles or n-gons is good. That's a pro. Quads are generally recommended. Especially if you're doing animation. I'm not going to be animating any of these assets, but it's just an interesting thing, and the fact that, say for example, I trust the builder to be able to better understand what he's doing, because that's a common thing to do. And yeah, so that's the basic heads up there. The reviews are pretty good, so that's a good one as well. Now, let's get into the technical side of things. So this particular asset has 323 meg of textures, which is exceptional. Like, that's a lot. And that goes back to the AAA sort of thing, where it's just like, well, if it's big, it can be used in whatever. It's not a red flag, but it is a warning. Well, let's do that. Red flags and warnings. This is a warning. You can always reduce the size of textures. The problem with that is you don't know how it's going to look on the end result as doing that. That said, I could probably simplify these textures myself pretty easily, so not too worried about that one. We also have the files that we've got. So we've got a Blender file. We've got FBXs, which is 14.9 meg, which is very good, and object OBJ, which is 8.01. Now, FBX is best. That said, because we are going to optimize the asset, we're going to open the Blender file, tweak it, and then export those FBXs manually. So we've got that. So making sure that you don't have, in the Mona ecosystem, things like .u asset, so an Unreal file. So if this had only .u asset, modifier or file name, it would be, I'm sure you can do it, but you would have to export it. Like, you would have to open it in Unreal, then figure out how to get that out into other ecosystems like FBX or Blender or whatever. Now, I'm sure there are extractors and things that do that. I haven't done it. I think that's one benefit I have over Unity over Unreal is Unity just uses the FBX as is. Unreal sort of converts it into its own asset for Unreal to do whatever it does. So that's another thing. That said, Blender is free, so if you have Blender files, you can put it in there and export it. But FBX is best. OBJ is what would you call it? Is compatible with Unity, but it's not as. Yeah, we'll just leave it there. It's not as it's compatible, but not as good as FBX. FBX has more stuff. But if you're looking at assets that aren't animated or things like that, you could use OBJ to be honest. Right, and the final things that I was looking at is these sort of things. So, is it animated? No, that's fine. Is it rigged? No, that's fine. VR, AR, low poly. We've got a yes. So that's a good thing. And this was kind of one of the final decisions in regards to choosing this asset, was it said this, if it works in VR, like say for example, not works, or is suited to AR, VR, at least a standalone headset, then that's good. The resolution for those have to be pretty low. Currently, next generation might not be, but we'll see how that goes. Polygon mesh, sure. Polygons 20,000 is a bit high for these assets. In, like, say for example, this is not the whole space, and these are just key assets. So this is a bit high. But what I plan to do in this workshop actually is take these and then modify them and improve them so we get that poly count down to something a bit more reasonable. So we can do that. Textures, yes it does. Materials, yes it does. UV mapping, yes it does. But the catch is, it doesn't say how many textures and it doesn't say how many materials. So that is a bit of a warning in regards to simply I don't know what I'm getting. If this is one material for each piece, that's not great. If it's one material for all the tombstones, one material for all the fences, then that would be okay. So we'll have to find out that. There are ways to combine materials. So that's called, what's that called? Texture atlasing, I believe. So there are ways, plugins, all sorts of things to basically combine a bunch of textures into one. So if we wanted to, we could combine those into material as one texture, and then get that into Unity, and then we can adjust the size of that texture in Unity. So that is one approach to counter that. We won't be going into that today, but texture atlasing is a choice if you want to get the material count down. So yeah, that's a warning. Non-overlapping is great, but depends on what you're using it for. And plugins and ready for 3D printing is also great. Ready for 3D printing pretty much implies that it would be a high texture asset, high polygon asset. So that would be another strong warning to get against an asset that was made. All 3D things are usually sculpted and quite high polygon. So, the end result of red flags, warnings, and pros. And pro being it's a great asset, looks great, and suits the space that I'm putting it into. So that's a big pro. So I want this to be good. But I am taking, let's say, a little bit of a gamble on the material count and the poly count. That said, we can improve the poly count, and if we needed to, we can improve the materials as well. Now, one thing I did do to check these is, let me see if I can get this. There we go. So, of course, they will go through the processes and renders, and these will look pretty good. Happy with these. But what it does do, and I'm happy about this, is it actually shows the wireframe of a lot of these assets. So having a closer look at what you're actually getting is a really good idea. And this gives me an idea of the kind of work that would be involved with reducing it, right? So say, for example, some of these, I could get rid of these polygons. This is like very quad focused, which is usually pretty good, but in some cases you want to get those materials, not the materials, the poly count down. So I can get rid of those lines, I can get rid of some of these lines, I can get rid of that line. But notice the curve over the top. That's a pretty good amount. That may be a bit high, but probably not important. So just looking at the assets, getting a feel. Like there's no polygons in here, which is great. That circle is a good resolution of polygons for the scale it's going to be. This is quite a small asset, so you don't want a lot of polygons for curves. That's good. Yep, that's good as well. So going over the assets, if you can see them, is very good. Now, I had a quick look in this in Blender, and things like this, and you can sort of see it there a little bit. Can I? Yeah, I can. Aren't I cool? All right. So this is a little too high polygon for the size of the element, right? So we could clean that up, and we will do so. How small can we go? So yeah, things like that is okay. That's an improvement that we could do very easily. Now, the one thing we've got, and a big count of the poly count, is the fence. Like that's a lot of polygons. The resolution is actually pretty good. But what I'm going to be doing is actually making a maze kind of thing with that asset. And that's too high. So what we're going to do, actually, is take that fence and project it onto a plane with alpha. So it kind of looks the same. It wouldn't have the depth, but like just running past it, which is kind of the point, you'll have the kind of the end result. And it's 4 polygons. No, 2 polygons. So one polygon facing that way, and another facing that way, with the texture looking like that. So we'll do that as well with that one. Some of these things, like for example these curves, too many polygons for, once again, the size and the detail. Like that doesn't really bring too much to the asset, but the poly count is considerably high, so we'll get rid of that. The rest of it, mostly pretty good. The fence, the gate, sorry, we'll probably need to do the texture thing as well. So we'll probably have one material that has all of the gates on it, and then we can apply that UV to these. So once again, get rid of those. So as you can see, there's a bit of the same thing at this point, right? We've sort of covered the basic things of what we need to do, and kind of relatively how easy it's going to be. And approaches to doing that. So with that in mind, let's start doing it. So in Blender, one of my favorite tools. Basically, I'm gonna start a new one. I did open it, but I want to do it. So the asset that I got gave me 4 different zip files. Hey Mills, how's it going? So we got the Blender files, the FBX files, the OBJ files, and the textures. Now, when I opened the textures, let's have a quick look at that. Where did I put it? Down here. Okay. So just as an example, now every texture is, not every texture, every asset is a little bit the same, or a little bit different, I mean. And this is what this one did. So I could download these 4 zips, and they create this. So the first thing I look at is the textures, which is quite a lot. Once again, we can resize them in Unity, but we can't really do them in any way. So once again, we could texture atlas them, put them all together in one material, or see how we go. So we're going to see how we go. We do have the roughness and metallics on some of these, which we'll have to combine into a different material in Unity, because Unity does smoothness and metallic as one texture. So we'll have to look at that as well. That said, it's workable. We'll figure out how we go. But the thing is also the metallic, I assume, comes to the fence, which we're going to be redoing anyway. So that's fine, kind of. So that's that. And then we've got the blender, which is basically one file. And then we've got the FBXs, which are all of them. The naming could be better, but I understand why they've done it. That said, because we're going to be optimizing it in Blender, I'm just going to open the Blender file. So we're going to do that here. There we go. Now they've modified the layout in Blender. So I'm just going to jump over to modeling when it lets me. There we go. All right. So these are our assets. And yeah, they're pretty good. So let's sort of take one of these. We'll take one of these and maybe look at one of these, and then you'll get the idea of what I'm doing. So, period on the numpad for focus. I wish they did F, but that said, F is used for other very useful stuff. To see the asset, we can just go to the viewport up here, and once again, looks very Tombstone-like, I guess. So, how do we optimize an asset? Now, the thing is, we could, because of how they've done the texturing, so if we look at UV editing, I'm not sure, is that gonna, yeah, okay. GS1, so let's see if we can actually see what GS1, GS11, okay. Maybe this? Yeah. Okay. So here's an example. It looks like this one asset is one material, which I'm not the biggest fan of. And you'll also note... maybe that's the wrong texture. Either way, it's taking up the whole material. So that's a bit of a con. But in a way, it actually looks like it doesn't... Like the variation on the texture that whichever one it is, I'm not too sure which one it is. It could be any of these. But if you look at these, like, there's no real variation apart from slightly darker. So what I might end up doing, especially because there was no overlapping UVs, is make my own concrete texture that kind of looks like this, and just make it tileable across all of them. And then we could use the light mapping to create the difference on some of the detail. That would be a much easier way to optimize a lot of this, simply because a lot of it's kind of like just concrete. So I think that's a much better approach to do it. Now, if all of these tombstones were one material, then maybe I wouldn't worry about that. But it is, so I'm going to look at like ways to do that. If anyone in the chat has any other ideas to bring to that table, feel free to say them. So let's have a look. Optimizing assets. So in this case, we're looking at sort of these lines here. Now they've mentioned everything is a quad, which is good. And I'm just using Alt and left click to select like the loops, right? And then Alt and Shift to multi-select. In Blender, everything else is actually really good. These ones, though, they don't change the edges, and they are just adding poly counts. So what I'm going to do is press Delete, and then go Dissolve Edges, not Edges. Dissolve Edges. And it looks the same, but has significantly less polygons. Now, which is what we want. That's a great result for that. Now, sometimes you will find that it will modify the UVs. So you either have to decide that you really want that edit, or what would you say? What's the other one? Or remap it. So you go into the unwrapping and tweak it to look how you want. And that's it, basically. So it's really quite easy. So I'm going to go through a few of these just quickly and get rid of these. Once again, looks the same. Doesn't glitch. That's a bit of a problem. So what I might even do is just do that. And that's fine. Cool. So that's that one. Yep. Let's do it again. This one? Might keep that one and keep that one. And let's get rid of this one as well. Yep. And these as well. So you got those there. So that basically creates 1, 2, 3, 6 polygons. So I'm just going to get rid of them. Delete, dissolve edges. And then on this corner, I'm just going to quad these up again, like so. If I can. With just a heads up, I'm using K for a knife tool, and making sure that the red dot or the green dot with the red outline, that works, is visible. Like if I did it here, that creates polygons that are not needed. So make sure it's like point to point. And escape to get rid of that one. So that one's good. And yeah, this is a good resolution for this kind of curve, right? Curves are evil. So optimizing those to be as good as possible. All right. So that said, we've sort of got the goal. Let's get into it. Everything else is good. Get rid of that. Yep. Okay. Down. Okay. Down. All right. Yes, Moody, looking at that question there, you can manually resize textures in 2 locations. So, and tell me if this is what you mean though. So, I could take the textures, limited dissolve. What's that one? I haven't heard that one before. We'll do that on the next one. Delete limited dissolve. You sure? What's that one about? Oh, that gets rid of the curves as well. So we don't want that actually. Let's get rid of them. Put X-ray on to make sure that we actually cover the ones we want. And let's get rid of them as well. Make sure it's only the ones we want, which is those. Yeah, I'll look into it. Yeah. Yeah, seems fine. I will look into that though. Cool. So the textures could be manually reset. So say, for example, the file size, take it into Photoshop, halve it, quarter it, whatever it needs to be done. But one approach, the quick approach to that is to resize them in Unity. So if you select the texture, and we'll probably look into this next week at the workshop, but go to the texture asset in Unity, and then down the bottom in the inspector, you have like the size, and you can just manually set what it is there. I like that one because you can sort of see the results in the space. So to the point of resize it, apply it, check it in Playground, and you can see how the texture looks. But you can also see it in the viewport. So that's a really good way to sort of do that. Let's get rid of these ones, I think. Should be fine. That's going to be interesting. Oh, and I got rid of them. Excellent. Perfect. Okay. So you got the tombstones, like we've done most of them. Might as well just finish, I guess. That's actually fine, but for the silhouette here, these polygons don't really bring that much to it. So I'm actually going to get rid of these ones. So if you look at the front right here, so that shift and that shift, or that, ooh, tricky. No, I think we'll just get rid of these two. Is very small. So a lot of the polygons that you're looking at is more about the silhouette rather than the front. Because if you have a sphere, you could put smooth on the front, and then if you want to do normal mapping and all that sort of stuff, so baking the detail into it, so it looks high resolution from the front with a normal map, so the bump map of that sort of thing. But the silhouette is the thing that sort of gives it away. But if you're looking at these sort of assets, this doesn't really bring that much to it. So if we delete that, it looks the same, and it has quite a few less polygons. So that's a good way to get rid of that one. Actually, I'm going to write that down. So leave me to dissolve and look into that. See what you're on about. I'm sure it's very useful. Okay. So those are cornered, so that's good. And last tombstone. So once again, let's grab all of these ones. Is that this one doesn't really affect that, but I might actually just move that so it does affect it better. But we'll get to that in a sec. Those are triangled, so that's good. Yeah, that should work. So get rid of those. And yeah, I kind of want to X-ray that and just move this a little bit. To actually make the silhouette worth being affected. Cool. And that's fine. All right. So apart from the material, which as I said, I would actually make a new material and just tile it. These are good. Now, this one gets a little bit more interesting. Now, this is actually not too bad. But these, I think a good example is if it gets solid in a wireframe, that's when you start needing to look at what's going on there. So these three things are a bit too much, and this door also is a bit too much. But the door, like the metal, we're going to be redoing. So this, and this, we're going to put all into one texture as a 2D image on a single quad or polygon. So what we're going to do for this one is I'm just going to probably... Okay, I'm going to grab these ones because these are way too high polygon for what they bring into the table. Control L to select them all and then delete faces so they don't exist anymore. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select every second round of these. And then just delete those. And then that's, once again, it has the detail, but doesn't have the polygons. And I'm cool with that. And luckily, this is an even amount. So if we go delete, dissolve edges, that's fine. So the quality does go down a tiny bit, but the poly count is significantly smaller. So yeah, that's a win in my book. I won't do this for all of them because time. But I will do this one. Yeah. Actually, I wonder, some applications have this, but a tool that actually automatically does this, I need to look into that. I've never used it, but a lot of them do have that. So, yeah. No, that one. Nope. Again, that one. Well, let's have a look. So select. Select the Y trait. Select more or less. Select loops. Nope. Select linked. Select random. Nope. Maybe there's a way to do it. I might look into that later. But yes, so I think a good habit to get into, and I haven't done this enough, is understanding the numbers when you're modeling. Understanding the numbers so this always happens. So everything is, I guess, even. There we go. Okay. That's good. Now, this is an interesting example of saving polygons. So if you look at this asset, it goes all the way through. Because you don't really never see inside you're never going to see this, right? Now, the reason that's good is because that if we were going to do two separate ones, you would have an edge there, which doubles that polygon count. The catch is this takes up a lot of the texture space. But I'm assuming what they've done is put this on the roof, for example. So different approaches to it, but yeah. So I think that's better, much better. Now I could have reduced the poly count of the curve as well. So same idea. So let's say we do this one, and then we do the same with that. That sort of thing, right? So we clean that up. So it could do that, but yeah. I personally think just getting rid of it is a better idea. No, not that one. You want to delete the faces. Now this curve is better, oddly enough. So that's fine. I'm going to keep that one. This one, on the other hand, is not bad, right? So you're looking at the curves, and they're low polygon curves. So I'm going to keep that one. This one's fine. I could reduce things like this one, so it doesn't change the texture, and it just reduces a couple. So that's fine. And things like that. Hearts, these are also perfectly fine. As these are kind of low polygon, like it's just a box, that's fine. And I think it does bring a bit to the table, so I think that's fine. And the other thing is these doors and gates and things, right? Okay, any questions from the thread? I will not teach anything I don't understand. I will 100% look at it and then bring that to future workshops. But unless I understand it, I'm not going to teach it purely because I don't know it. That said, listen to Moody. Sounds like he knows what he's about. But that said, like it's definitely a part of the whole ecosystem of game development. Is depending on how you learn and where you learn, you will miss really important things. For example, in my 20 years of development in all sorts of things, I've never heard of limited dissolve. So, yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's go. These are all the same sort of thing. But let's have a look at the lamps. Okay. Looks great. But some of these things, like this, super small, but haha, interesting. Glad I caught this. This has a subdivision on it. So the reason they've designed that as they have, because it has that. So I'm going to get rid of that and turn it into that. Right. I have to make sure none of the other assets have that as well, actually. So this one's going to be a bit different on the grounds that it's designed with different things in mind. So, for example, all of those polygons are not needed. Now, I'm assuming he created them, or the artist, the original, or they created them, purely because of the subdivision. So, adding loops like this on the edge allows a bit more control of the subdivision, if that makes sense. But we do not need them now. So, because this is all a bit different, I'm going to have to do this because it'll take a while. But hopefully you get the idea that, yes, we're optimizing away from subdivided model approach. Because a lot of this is that. And I'll give your dissolve a shot. Yeah, so quite a lot of polygons in this one, and for good reason in a way. If you're doing subdivision, you kind of want that extra control and make it like super clean kind of thing. But we definitely do not want subdivision. Nope. Actually, good thing to know, and I don't like the statistics in Blender. I don't know why it is what it is, sort of thing. Because understanding what the texture count was to what it is going to be would be kind of cool. So this is one, and then doing the same around thing. This is fine. This we'd have to add, like get rid of some, and things like that. So yeah, sure you get the idea. Let's delete, limited dissolve. And yeah, seems fine. So yeah, I would clean all of that up. Bevel, I'm actually going to get rid of that one. Super small. Most of these don't have them, I don't think. But coming to these. Now, this one is a good example of where, say, the UV map might glitch, right? Maybe Dissolve might fix this. So if it does, awesome. So if I just do Dissolve Edges, like it does that. Which is not what we want. So let's try Limited Dissolve. Let's try Limited Dissolve. What are you doing, Moody? So Limited Dissolve for some reason doesn't work on that. But if I use Dissolve Edges, it does that, which I don't want. Now, I could either re-texture it, like re-unwrap it. But another approach is to see what all faces. Okay, hang on. So let's grab that. Go Control plus. Oh, hang on. Is this the smart? This is kind of smart dissolve, right? Nope. Or all the whole thing? Like so. Mm. Gotcha. Yes, yes, yes. I do remember this one and completely forgot about it. So thanks for the reminder. Limited dissolve is smart dissolve, basically. Um, yep. Okay. Let's see what I do with this one, because these, once again, come down to sort of too detailed. Now, the problem-ish with this is you might not... Yeah, it should be fine. So say, for example, it gets rid of a lot of the faces here, but that also means you don't see the faces that it has, right? So that's not one polygon, as cool as that would be. Kind of interested to see... Yeah, so it does look the same. So, yes, I remember now. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it kind of cleans up flat, what do you call it? So let's see if it does it with this one, actually. So select X-ray, select all. I want that one to disappear. And it does. Okay. Moody wins today. Now this one, these, for example, are very detailed. So I'm probably going to have to get rid of them. Once again, I could get rid of some of the rounds, and limited dissolve has started this in a way. But because of the curves, because of the poly count, and because these would be quite small, I might actually just get rid of those curves. Keep these ones down here and get rid of these ones. So let's do that. Let's see if we can do that quickly. The other option is maybe keep that one, like optimize that, keep that, get rid of those ones. So your approach to it depends on the needs of the space, to be honest. So let's do that and see what that looks like, actually. So just selecting one asset of all of those, select L, Control L, sorry, Control L, get rid of that completely. Nope. Okay. Try that again. Yeah. Faces, maybe move those down a bit. I'm not going to because of time, but yeah. So you could very much move some of these to be as you sort of want to be with less polygon. So it has some detail, but also less polygons, basically. So I would do that with all the subs. The other approach, especially as we're going to be sort of making or optimizing these. So I want to make a jack-o'-lantern, but this is actually kind of really useful. What I would probably do is start making a trim sheet approach to this, which has mostly just concrete, but we get some detail like this. So we bake this into a normal map, and just have detail texture, if that makes sense. So if we had an example, so let's make one up. Trim sheets are great. I think Moody is a prime example of using trim sheets to great advantage. Most of your spaces are trim sheets, right? So let's start with 2048 by 2048. No texture apart from the skybox should be bigger than 2048 by 2048. Most of them should be 1024 or less. But we're going to start there and scale as needed. So, for example, if we were going to sort of roughly design what we're trying to do here, let's have a look. So I would, let's go, sure. Let's go, where is it? Let's put this down. So let's say we have one kind of detail there. Let's get a couple of details in there. And the rest would be concrete, basically. So say, for example, you would have, let's do it this way. So let's go, what? Yeah, there we go. So say, for example, we have red as just concrete slab, right? So I'm going to put that in there and call it concrete, and then like just mask that off. So I can do sort of whatever I want in that. As a random example, nah. Let's do green for, let's say, detail 1. So let's just mesh all of that. Not mesh, this is Photoshop, texture all that, and then do that. And then another one, for example. So let's go red, green, and blue. There. New material. Fill that in. Why didn't blue work? So as a guide, basically, of course it wouldn't look like this, but we will create sort of a main concrete texture, a trim like detail texture, and well, two different ones. So, and because it's going to the edge, like the side here and the side here will tile, for example. So if I had polygons along here, and they keep going out this way, that's fine because this is tiled. That said, we couldn't go down because then you would have these two elements in the tile block. That's it. You might design it that way. So if you had kind of like a category here and you wanted like a interesting block detail every now and then, you could do that in and utilize that in interesting ways. So as an example, let's just randomly. It's always a challenge between balance and what do you call it? Time. So I want to do everything, but I don't have enough time for that. So let's do this really cool. Let's get rid of that because I don't want the snapping. Extras. Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's say we have one. I want to kind of at least imply tiling. So let's say that's a perfect tile. Let's do the same with this one, but a different tile. So sure. And then let's do kind of just random dots, I guess. Think looks like a watermelon. Okay, so we have our new texture. Now, of course, this wouldn't need to be like, oh no. So we'll save that. Put that into our folder so we can use it as needed. Actually, I'm just going to make that a PNG. Literally going to call it watermelon. And diffuse after that, because types is useful. All right. So let's take this as an example. So I'm going to do duplicate. So that's Shift D because Blender's a bit weird for that. Put that there. Let's make a new material. So I'm going to just make a new material. Let's call it watermelon. Let's go to shading and pull up our watermelon texture. And for that, we can just go drag and drop, like so. Connect the color to the base, like so. And it should be in here, but it doesn't look like it is. No, it is. There we go. Cool. Let's go over to UV editing. Find our top here. Right. So as you can see, it's got a lot of things. Now you'll note, ooh, interesting. You'll note that some of the vertices have been kind of warped. And that's probably because of the editing that we did. So do note that. Like, because it's all kind of like a generic texture, it's not too much of an issue. But it is a thing. So let's change this to our watermelon thing. Let's grab all of the assets that we don't want to. So optimization, we want to get rid of all of these little ones, like so. Okay. Them. Control L. I think A just does that as well, actually. So let's check. A is all of the asset. Control L is the one I use for just getting that. So as an example, and I don't know, because we can, let's actually get rid of these ones as well. So Control L, faces, right. I'm going to just select all of it and go UV, Smart UV Project, just because it cleans that up a bit. I'm going to assign this on it, so assign. Make sure to get X-ray mode on so you actually select everything. Smart UV Project, much better. All right, so let's do some customization. So let's say, for example, we want this. Now that goes down, so I'm going to rotate that there, move that up, scale that up, so it fits nice and neat. And you've got that. Now, we don't actually need it to be tiled, but we could. So say, for example, this long one here. Let's give that a shot, actually. Well, no. Once again, rotate that one. Rotate that one, holding control. Yep, holding control to snap. Scale, move that up to about there. You know, that awesome detail there. next one, let's grab all of this, because I want to make sure that apart from those two, it's sort of in the concrete section. So, now if you wanted to, you could do. Oh, let's do that because that'd just be fun. So with this approach, and this is a good example where dissolve, what do you call it? Limited dissolve doesn't help you, is because this polygon here, to select it, is actually a bit complicated, right? So to select a polygon, you have to select the dot of it. And if you have something like that, which will, like limited dissolve, will sort of close or delete some of those ones, that disappears. So if I do that now, I can easily select those polygons. So depends on the situation. If you're going to be doing custom modifying like this, I would probably be more controlled. That said, I like control. So I would probably do it this way. That said, if you were just going to clean it and not remap it, then a limited dissolve would work as well. So case by case, as always. But the goal here, let's do this one. And I'm going to add them here as well, just to make this easier to select and work with. Yep, cool. So next, select this and this. Now, these ones are bent, but you can do cool stuff with it. So I'm going to scale this up and to the point of like rotating. No, we'll just do this. We'll sort of rotate these down here like so. Rotate it slightly and then scale. And this is where trim sheets really shine. So if you had a normal map and all like a really cool detail there, our blue one doesn't exactly do it justice. You can do this. So I'm going to align X. Nope. Align Y. Problematic. There we go. Align Y. Cool. Align Y. So when you look at it, we have this really nice tiling element over the detail, right? And if you wanted to, you could use this trim here on the edge and all that sort of stuff. So having that ability to create like quite high detail with, in essence, a very small texture. So this texture could be like 128 by 128 probably because it's so simple, but a concrete texture would be different, right? So you could 100% start building a concrete here. So let's, as a quick example, let's see if the asset that we bought has any elements that we could use for this. So let me just pull up the textures. So this is all these. I'm going to view them like that, and we kind of want the biggest, flattest diffuse. So for example, that area there has a flat one, but the tombstones had quite big ones. So I'm assuming some of these are bigger textures. So for example, and this is a prime example, this is a 4K texture. No. Do not put this into your space. That said, all of them, that's a 2K. So the tombstones are 2Ks. So they put these at high resolution, but I would probably make a quarter of these. So this 4K would be a 1K. These 2Ks would be 512. But we're not going to use any of that. We're just going to steal some of these. So, for example, I'm going to steal, let's say, this section. Copy. Right. So this is not going to tile well, but I'm just going to show you an example. Let's do sort of 4. Actually, no, let's do this. A cheat, not the best, but it's a cheat. Is literally flip it. That doesn't work. So literally flip it. And in many cases, it'll be a bit obvious, but it'll be better than the rotation. So you could do that. Let's make it a bit bigger, like so. And then I'm just gonna get the stamp tool and cheat this a little bit. So let's go a bit bigger there. And kind of max that out. So it's kind of less tiley. So that works. Now the thing is, this texture needs to be tileable at least this way, right? One way to do that is the offset. And if I recall, what was that one? Images? Nope. I think it's a plugin. Nope. Filter. Render. Offset. Where's it gone? Video. Nope. Other. There we go. So in Photoshop, pardon me, other offset. And then just go, so this is 2K texture, so 1024 is what we want in the horizontal. If it was a tileable texture, you would do 1024 in there as well, but we don't want that. So once again, you get sort of like a tiling texture, so I'm just going to de-tile that one just a little. Like so. And then we have a good detail. Now, the thing is, we don't have any, what would you call it? Detail examples. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that one and put that in here. Move it up. And then just go overlay, for example. What's a good one? Saturation, luminosity, color. You know what I mean. So let's do that. And do this again. So of course I would spend the time to do this properly, or even make a bake of an asset, like a high polygon asset, and bake the detail into there, because that'd be pretty cool. And then we can just save that over the top of the last one. Of course, the metallic and smoothness. I would have to add the file here, like so. And then we're already getting that. Now, we do lose a bit of the, like, what seems like shadow elements and stuff like that. But that's fine, because we can do that in Unity with light mapping. So, basically all that. So for the sake of time, I'm going to wrap it up there for this asset. I think there's definitely more than enough to start optimizing an asset for... It actually looks pretty cool though. Asset for buying a prepaid asset, optimizing it as needed, retexturing it if you needed, and then using it for WebGL space. So any questions from the chat before moving on to probably making a jack-o'-lantern? So pretty happy with that. So make sure, although you can always download it from the original source, but make sure to save it as like a different file. So cemetery final, I'm going to get rid of cemetery with an E supposedly. 01 and use my naming system, which is basically putting underscores numbers at the end of everything, and that'll be fine. Done. Okay, moving on to new. So, chat's choice. Do we use kind of like the trim sheet approach, or do we use a texture atlasing approach? We actually did trim sheet approach in that one, so technically we could just do the atlas approach. Appreciated. And more performant, which is the most important thing. So yeah, those will be good to use. Once I'm done with them, those will be good to use in a space without issue. They'll be smaller file size. The textures will be updatable, and once again, actually, we'll use one texture. 2 textures. 2 materials for all of those assets. One being the concrete with the trim sheet, and one being the gates, the gate pass-through with alpha. And that has to be a different material anyway because it has alpha, whereas the concrete doesn't. So they would have to be 2 different materials anyway. Transparent materials do cost more in performance, just a little bit. So we'll have those 2. So we've moved from the original amount of textures, which look like 20 or something. Hang on, let's do a quick check on that. So we'll be moving from so let's go by type, maybe view by sort by name? No. Well, let's do this. One, all the base colors are going to have their own material. A lot. And maybe that one as well. So that is 24 items selected, which is a lot of materials in a WebGL space. And depending on where your target space is going to go. So if you're going to use a platform that has VR or AR or mobile or all that, and we hope to get there eventually, 24 is a lot because the whole space should be like 50 or like 75 to 100 at most. So these small assets in the larger space, 24 is way too high. So in essence, I would definitely do this anyway, even as like trying to optimize. I need to get those materials count down. So basically what I'm going to do, because the asset is kind of the same, to be honest, it's just concrete, right? I can do that. So if you had a custom asset that was more detailed, for example, that had custom normal maps to the space and all that sort of stuff, that would not be ideal. And maybe these assets actually did have custom detail on the normal map. Like, say, for example, like the edges have wear and decay and all that sort of stuff. But the subtle difference there is not worth the 24 material count. So as much as I like the assets and how they look, and it would save me a lot of time from modeling them from scratch, basically I will need to reduce those materials down to the planned 2. Maybe 3, because we got the metal of the lamp as well. So yeah, definitely material count is one of the biggest things to consider in a mono space, simply because like each unique material is a draw call. And draw calls are the things that the computer has to think about. So yes, that's slightly bigger, but it's going to be super optimized once it's done, and that'll be really cool. So that's that. Now, Moving on. Go Atlas. So the texture. No, what do they call this version? So palette texturing is in a way a kind of trim sheet. So Moody, because you're the one throwing out ideas. Do you want palette texturing, trim sheets, or trim sheets, basically? And we'll make a jack-o'-lantern. Atlas, in my mind, implies that you're sticking different materials together. So you'd have four materials, and then you would basically combine those materials into one material. So the texture file size is probably bigger, but the draw calls is lower. And of the two options, less draw calls is the way to go. That said, I've never used what would you call it? There's a lot of tools that allow you to texture Atlas automatically, so it'll just combine materials. I haven't used them because when I design my assets, I have that in mind. Trim sheets, cool. So let's start with texture then. So let's do a trim sheet pumpkin. This will be interesting. So let's do a really small one because I really like the idea of getting really good resources with really small, really good assets with really small resources. So tileable, yep. So let's go 2 by 16. 8 by 16. 16 by 32. Let's see if that works. We'll go higher just in case, and then resize down later if need be. I still want to do small though, so let's go 32 and 64. So 2 by 1 or 1 by 2 is good, or is okay. Squares are better, but I think 2 by 1 and 1 by 2. 1 by 4, not too sure about actually. I would like to know. That would be good to know. Okay. So that's our texture. What do we need for a pumpkin? Let's do some referencing. Jack-o'-lantern. I actually kind of liked the one that Argent put in to the chat. The tech is cool. Do we want stylized? Actually, let's do that as well. Let's see what the stylized category looks like. I think this is a really good use of AI, actually. Like using Midjourney or any of those. Because honestly, like a lot of the images you get in Google search now, like the first 4 are pretty good, but then after that it gets a bit messy. So, yeah, I think Midjourney is a really good approach. I think I personally, this is very much a personal opinion of AI. AI should be used to help, not replace humans. But the problem is people who, in certain roles, will use them to help them, which also means they will replace humans. So I don't know, it's tricky. It's a whole thing. It's gonna be a thing, but that's a conversation for another day. Okay. So when it comes to jack-o'-lantern, things we need, basically the let's embiggen one of these. This one's pretty good. That's kind of cute. I kind of want that. That's cool. All right, maybe it is. But when it comes to a jack-o'-lantern, I've got a thing for this. Let me do that because that would be useful. Where is it? This. The problem with 4 screens is 4 screens. Okay. So when it comes down to it, you've got very common parts of the jack-o'-lantern. So we've got sort of the loop there, and we can tile it that way and that way very easily. So that's one thing we need to do. We also need to consider this. And that's also made of kind of loops there. So we could do another tileable loop that way and that way. Yeah, for sure. That's yeah. Be warned, if you continue questions like this, I'm going to go on a whole tangent because I've been thinking about this for a long time. But and I definitely lean towards what would you call it? And the jobs are going to be the big one. And a lot of people are saying, well, we're going to come up with new jobs. Yeah, but yeah, I'm undecided if that's going to be the case, because late stage capitalism. But the tech itself is great. The humans that use it is a mixed bag. I think that's what it comes down to. So the AI isn't the problem at all. It's the humans behind it. Okay, back to the point. Focus, focus. But yes, it's going to help a lot of people. Like I'm really excited for like the scientific side of things, like physics, medicine, and all the rest of it. Like there's gonna be so much cool stuff. The problem is we as a species are still a little bit primitive in our subconscious approach to things. So yeah, we're gonna have a mixed bag result, but I am looking forward to like the cool stuff that it does bring, and it will 100%. Okay. So back to the point. So we've got that line, and we've got the interior. So if you cut that, and we can do some cool shading in there. So I've got some ideas for that as well. We don't really see it on this one. But if we picked another one, so let's go back to this and go to, let's say this one's fine. So say for example, you've got the edging inside here, and then you got the inside. So those could use the same loop. So in essence, we've got 4 loops. So we've got outside, inside, 3 loops, and the thing. Do we want a leaf? Let's put it in. Let's do it. Okay. So we've got 4 sections. So let's do that, shall we? But I saw on that they were using AI. They gave someone who couldn't speak the ability to speak. They basically hooked in an AI system with her own voice that they recorded from when she did, plugged it into like basically an AI system, and basically, yeah, she could speak again, which was fantastic. So yes, when it comes to disability, when it comes to limitation of any sort, when it comes to general science, understanding all the things that we can't, or the things we're too lazy to do that, because like we could if we had 1,000 people doing the same thing for 10 years, but we're not going to do that anytime soon. Okay. So for this approach, what I'm actually going to do is use gradient, I think. So let's say main. Let's do the next one, which would be internal. Now I might adjust the widths of these because like some of these might be smaller. So the top bit, oh, that's kept there. That's cool. So we can adjust as needed. So we'll do that a bit later as well. What do you call it? A stalk? Not the bird. And one more. Let's do leaf just in case we go that way. So that's cool. Double click on this one and pull up gradient overlay. Let's get... Can I grab that? No. Yeah. Hopefully you don't need that because I want to get rid of it. It annoys me. Okay, cool. We want reflected. So we've got that. Good. And what colors we need. So for this one being our main one, we want, let's say orange, like a cool orange. Let's kind of make it really vibrant because why not? Vibrant, vibrant, vibrant. Yeah, that works. So we got that. Yeah, I'm gonna make that one bigger, I think, eventually. But we'll worry about that later. Internal. So we want basically the same thing. Actually, we're going to do that for all of them. So let's just redo that. Internal. So this one, same, but we kind of want to make it less saturated, I guess you could say. So let's kind of put this over here. And darker, because it's going to be in shadow, if that makes sense. So let's do that one. And that, put that down as well. And we can adjust as needed. So that's good. Move that down. Next one was Dork, right? Let's do kind of green. I think green's a good contrast to orange. And brown's kind of boring. So let's do green. A darker one there. And a lighter one there, maybe. Yep, that works. And to be honest, we could actually use that for the leaf. Yeah, they'd use the same greens. So, internal can be smaller. We don't need these anymore because we're not going to use them. So let's Control T that one. Holding Shift just to sort of do that. Let's put that at the bottom, maybe. Just to be smaller. That's good. Leafy. Because of the leaf, I'm going to make that a bit taller. That'll adjust. And main. Nope. Right. So we could do that. Now, I could put some dithering on it. Kind of tempted to. So let's fill this with maybe gray or white. I haven't done dithering in a while, so I'll forget how to do it. So that is a filter. Let's go to render. Nope. Noise. Add noise. Monochromatic. Yeah, that'll do. And then put screen? No. Overlay. Yeah. And then make that a little more subtle. Cool. Everyone agree? This needs to be a PNG. Okay. So in a way, this is kind of going to be both palette texturing and trim sheets as one example. So we'll give it a shot. So it says pumpkin. Pumpkin. Actually, with this one, I'm going to pumpkin 01 and then the type. So diffuse. Because that's my naming technique. Let's get into it. So let's make a box. How long we got? Well, we've got as long as I want. But yeah, maybe half an hour. Aim for half an hour. We'll see how we go. And for this, I'm literally going to make a super quick, like stuff like that. So once again, I'm going to use hotkeys all the time. If you don't know the hotkey that I'm using, please ask, because Blender is, and always has been, to be honest, a hotkey thing, like 100%. So going inset, you could use I. Some things I use hotkeys for, and sometimes I don't. It's a bit weird, but we've got that. E for extrude. S for scale. There we go, pumpkin. Ship it. Right, so we have our pumpkin. I'm going to name it that. And I'm going to create a new material. Now, the material is going to be called pumpkin. And then we're going to go to shading up here. Really should just... Yeah. 4 screens, man. There we go. Okay. So builds down here. So we've got this. We've got our pumpkin diffuse. So we've got that. Now, the reason I do that is just drag and drop is a lot easier. You can do it otherwise. So drag and drop is much easier than adding a node. What is it? Texture, like image texture, open, like all that sort of stuff. So drag and drop for the win, but you can do it otherwise. Once your texture is here, color to base color. And that's it. Now, the reason I only do that, I don't put the metallic in unless you really want to see it. I always do my materials in Unity because Unity does its own thing, especially with roughness and smoothness, and pretty much everyone else does roughness. So I use the diffuse as the reference point for the trim sheet, but the rest I will still make the material from scratch in Unity. That looks really nice, actually. I like the blend of the thing. So that's actually going to work in our advantage in a way. So that's all we need for shading. Next we go to UV editing. So let's make the smallest, lowest polygon pumpkin ever, and then make a cool one after that. So I'm going to grab all of it with X-ray. So it's all of it. And you'll notice that the UV maps are here. So I'm going to just go Smart UV Project. Just, that's a habit I do. Don't need to do anything. Completely up to you. But basically, I'm going to G for this over here. And then we're going to go like that. And then we're going to go like that. I'm going to get rid of these ones as well. Move them up. So as you can see, like even though that's here, like it tiles fine. Like there is a tile and it goes straight through, which is great. Now the top, that's an interesting choice. Maybe sort of put that up the top, because that would, yeah, maybe at the top. But there's some interesting things we could do with that one as well. So let's make it a bit bigger so we can get some dots in there. Now let's check something. Okay, so very important thing, because I always fail at this. It seems like it's legit, like these are all squares and all the rest of it like that, so that's good. But make sure in object mode to go Control A and scale to make sure that those are ones. So when you use unwrap, it does it correctly. So say for example, if I scale it up like so, you'll notice that that number is different. I'm going to select all these, go UV, Smart UV Project, Go. And they are still squares, which is not what you want if you're doing mapping in certain ways. So, once again, go A, scale, that, Smart UV project, go, and then you have the long versions. So that's small tips in regards to if things aren't unwrapping correctly. Okay, next up we have, let's go these ones. So that's down. So let's rotate all of these. That way. And basically we want, well, I'm going to do something interesting with that one. So I'm going to move that up. These two can go down. G, Y. Because UVs only use 2Ds. Now let's find out if this is going the right way. So let's scale it up to get that quality in there. Now we're going to be adding loops in there, but yeah. So what I'm going to do here, once again, this is a whole very example, but if you're doing low poly experiences, like low poly assets, like super low poly assets, this is kind of interesting. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, and I'll go split selection. Make sure to move it because it doesn't realize that it's doing that unless you move it. So let's grab all of these, sort of put them together because it's going to be the same thing. And the thing is also, like, a lot of artists are going towards like low poly, low quality. Art is very subjective, and you can do some really powerful stuff with some really interesting approaches. And I think this kind of falls under that category. Is you've got a lot of artists making assets that are like don't need to be low poly or limited, but they are. And this is a prime example. So, for example, I do it all the time. Let's get all of these again. And just to make sure they line up, I'm going to do, yeah, let's do this. So we only have to worry about the ones we've got. To line those up perfectly, like so. Do note, make sure that it is in the right category. That's a very important element there. And that way, you've got this kind of approach here. Now, the bottom is tricky. Because it's a square and we kind of want everything to go into the center. So I'm actually, this is where trim sheets kind of bend the rule a bit on the fact that I'm actually going to add polygons. Not too many, of course, but I'm going to add polygons to use the texture in interesting ways. And one, it's kind of fun. I actually really enjoy trim sheets because you can get some really interesting effects with like very, what would you call it? Bob Ross approaches to it, whereas it's like making happy mistakes like regularly. So that's kind of a good thing. I enjoy trim sheets, like optimizing assets in interesting ways, like unwrapping is kind of puzzle solving for me now. Most people hate it, and there are plugins that do it for you. But to be honest, it's kind of zen. I don't mind it. What else do we have? So once again, let's grab all of these and snap all these together. Make sure that it's under in the red. So it's not, you can see a little bit of green there. So that is a good example of being careful. So GY to move that one out. And there we go. That's a much nicer, stupid low polygon pumpkin. Now let's get some jack-o'-lantern in there. Now for that, let's just draw it on the front with knife tool. Edit. Knife tool. Okay. So traditional approach, 1, 2. Let's get some curve in there. But I kind of want to make it even simpler just because everything is simple. So let's do that. And then space to close. Now you'll note that if you're doing something like this, it'll close it off. Like it will add a polygon, like a line there, which is fine. So you got those two. And that's fine. Let's keep on going. So we need some eyes. Evil. Evil. We also need... this time I'm just going to close it off myself. And I'm going to actually just flip that one. So I'm going to delete these two. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to extrude these two. Do we want to... Yeah, I think we do want to get the interior in there as well. So I'm going to... What am I going to do? I'm going to delete. Yes, I'm definitely going to delete because the back face of this you will never see. And if you don't see it, there's no point having it. So I'm just going to delete that one. And then I'm going to get this one, this one, this one, these ones, and probably the top as well, just in case. And go duplicate, scale. Okay. And just for that, I'm going to move that down here and scale it down here. Like so. So yeah, you'll never see the back of that, so there's no point having polygons. Because Unity will see them. So do that, basically. Now, let's grab... Yeah. Just these, I guess. Yep, that works. Shift D to duplicate. X to move across the x-axis. And space to place. Scale X, yep. -1. We'll do that. Then we kind of have to block that off and get rid of this. Faces. F. So if you have a loop, like a thing like this, pressing F with the F2 mesh tool. So that is an add-on, and I use it all the time when making assets like this. So if you go to edit, you go to preferences, you go to add-ons, usually it'll be up here at the start, so go to add-ons, go to the search and go F2, and make sure this is on. That allows you to sort of do what I just did. So let's clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to get rid of that one. Actually, kind of interested to see what happens. Let's see. So let's go delete and limited dissolve. Yeah. No, I'm going to keep that one. So that's the thing. So sometimes you will cross off edge and like it doesn't know how to fix it with limited dissolve or the normal one. So which is fine. It just means you'll have to manually make it or manually edit it. Like so. That way we can get all of these again. Yep. I'm going to Smart UV project, like so. Interesting. The other approach is there are other ones. I always use Smart UV project because I'm customizing a lot of these. Another useful one I find is project from view. So if you go, like even if you did this and go project from view, you'll have exactly that. So if you straighten it up on this and go project from view, you've got like exactly what you're trying to do here. Another one is project from view bounds. So it will make it as big as the like the material, the texture. It's really, really useful. So those two are really good for that approach as well. Let's go sideways. Let's go scale. And it looks like I missed one. Problem with orange is it's orange. So I'm going to try that again. Just trying to catch the dots on those sort of things. Go back there again, and then try that again. So UV, project from sphere, rotate, scale. Done. Now, because this is cut, I'm going to sort of do this for this bit as well. So another useful one is control. If you hold control, it will select all of the polygons in the shortest way possible. So for that one there, it's actually going through there. We don't want that. So I'm going to go sort of there and then go a bit closer so it knows which ones I want to go for. So that's a really useful tool for faster selection. Shift to multi-select as well. And then interesting. Okay. That's great. Now I'm going to unwrap that actually. Am I going to unwrap that? Smart UV project. Let's see what happens there. Not what I want. So what I'm going to do actually, select the loop and I'm going to go mark seam. I'm going to see how this goes because I think mark seam does everything regardless of if you want it to or not. So it's quite frustrating, but another very useful tool for unwrapping. So let's mark seam on that one. Now, the seam, for example, is going to be like a cut, right? So usually you want that seam to be hidden. So I'm going to do that in there and up there. And then I'm going to grab that loop, and that loop. And go Control plus, which will grow things. And then I'm going to try unwrap. Okay, it did work. Excellent. And that way we have a straight line, for example. Now, one of these doesn't. I think it's this one. So mark seam again. Let's grab all of these. Plus, model, UV, unwrap. And then we have these straight lines, which, for a trim sheet, kind of exactly what we want. So let's scale it up. Bit big. Ah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to go to islands, which is 4. So you got vertices, edges, polygons, and islands. So I can just click this because it's all connected. because we did unwrap UVs. And there we go. That one didn't work. Why didn't that one work? Probably because it wasn't even selected. So let's just do unwrap again. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Once again, I'm going to clean all this up. I'm going to hide the top because it's like weird levels. Why is that green? What happened there? Okay. Sure, you get the picture. Now, notice how... Yeah, where is it? This is a good example of, because the shape goes higher there, the center of it is always a bit of interesting sometimes to catch. But yeah, grab those ones again. Okay. And all the inside as well. This one. Because what we want to do, just to make sure, is make all of those connected just the top. So we don't want those at the bottom there, or in the middle, sorry. Oh, wow. Okay. So there we go. We have the basic pumpkin. Now let's get this into like a proper, like spherical pumpkin. Now there's multiple ways to do that. I would possibly start again, do a sphere, but one tool that is really useful, let's see how it goes with it, is loop tools. And that is another preferences. Type in loop tools and make sure that one is on. Because what that does is it allows you to make circles real quick. Now this isn't going to work very well, but if I do that, it'll be a circle, but a square is technically a circle. So let's add some more polygons in here. So I'm going to get rid of that one because I want a line to go straight down there to start doing some interesting stuff with this. So let's go Control R to add a loop. So, and Control R to add a loop. This one I'm actually going to cut with K. So do knife like so. And we also need to sort of cut into this as well. I'm going to cut to the point just to make sure that it is in the middle. And another one up there as well, because that's great. Now, so a better example, if I do that, get rid of that one, go loop tools, circle. Once again, circle. The other thing is sometimes you have to like rotate it depending on the asset you create, if that makes sense. So circle. Get rid of the bottom. Circle. Right. So the front is going to be an interesting issue, 100%. So what I'm gonna do is actually make a boolean for this, I think, because we want the pumpkin to look like a pumpkin. So what we're gonna do here instead is gonna delete all of the front face. And probably the interior as well. For reasons. So get rid of all of that. Control L, get rid of that. And then we've got F and F. Now, I'm not going to worry about the texturing just now because we just want the object. So, how can we do some other things? So let's add, what's a nice amount? Now, these are going to be pretty small. So maybe that much. And maybe one in here as well. And one in here. Oh, interesting. Because of that. Okay, cool. I'm going to dissolve that vertice. No. Let's just do an inset. That's a bevel. Inset. And that'll kind of do. Cool. Now, this is where I don't know if this is going to work. It'll be great if it does. The answer is no. The other approach, actually, let's try it this way then. Yeah. Actually, I'm just going to separate that because I don't mind that. It'll be a good start. So separate the section. Get all these guys. And then go merge at center. And then try a circle. So notice how it rotates a little bit. So I can easily just go like that. And it's done. Now, the catch with this direction, though, is you can't rotate it as easily. Yeah. So let's go on view. Which direction are we going with that? That way. Yeah. Okay, this is the harder approach. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to do a circle. A sphere, sorry. Always finding interesting ways to do it. Now, there's two types of spheres. There's an isosphere, and then there's a... what's the other one? UV sphere. Generally speaking, I will use a UV sphere over this one, especially for a pumpkin because you've got the lines going down the side. So we don't want the icosphere. Sometimes it's good, but we want this one. Now, the reason we want this one is UV sphere. And down here, you want to modify these numbers. So like this amount of polygons is still probably too high, even for a low poly. So let's go with, let's see, 16 and 8. Usually these, like, rings is half segments. So I don't mind that because it's going to be a bit small, but we're going to have a face and stuff like that. So let's go 20 and 10. Nope, 18 and 9. Yeah, and we can optimize as needed, I think. So let's G that. GZ that one. All right. Next up, let's scale it down. Move it up. Let's scale that one down. So Z that to get a bit pumpkiny. We'll do that in again. I'm going to maybe select these two. And I'm going to use this. Now, this is really cool, actually. It's called proportional editing. And what it does is kind of selects the vertices around it in this shape. So I'm going to go with maybe this one. You can do connected only, so it doesn't do all of them. And then just go like that. And then if you use the middle mouse button, you can scale how that works, right? So maybe like that. Yeah. Definitely getting pumpkin. We want that alone. So I get rid of that and then go G down. Maybe that one as well. Holding Alt, left click, will select all of the ones in a loop. Good. And same with that one. Move that up a bit. GZ. All right, cool. Now, notice this one. Pumpkins have the in and out, and we do kind of want that. So, for that, we're going to go... I'm going to try this. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. So, every second... And this is where the number plays a part. So even numbers are very important. Let's just scale it out a bit. So scale that out a little bit. And then I want maybe the sides to be even more. Yeah. You're going to get rid of those as well. And then scale that. Okay. So we have our pumpkin. Now with this one, we want it to kind of curve a little bit. So let's put, 2. 2's fine. Let's scale those in a little bit, a lot. Scale Z to make that up a bit. We also want to scale that one down. And we also kind of want to make that kind of go over. Now I could use bend if I really wanted to be technical about it, but I don't. So let's just do that. Okay. Excellent. Now, I did mention before where like the silhouette is the most important thing, right? The reason for that is like we can see the polygons because it's a low polygon asset, but if we go to object in object mode, go to object, go shade smooth, it's smooth, like it's fine. And it's only the edge. But the thing is, technically, like we could bevel some of these. So if you see the top, we could actually do that, and maybe I will. But I'd like to see what it looks like without it as well. So that's good. Now the thing is, what we do want though is we actually want to kind of sharpen this so it looks like, well, a pumpkin. So we can sort of get rid of a lot of these elements. Back to these. And then go right mouse click and then go mark sharp, if I recall. Or is it edge crease? Let's go edge crease, see what happens. No. Do not do edge crease. That's a whole thing. So mark sharp. Now, where is it? Normals, auto smooth. So if we put this up really high, it will take the mark sharp as separate. So that is going to smooth basically everything on this asset except for what we mark as sharp. And once again, we need to go to shade smooth. Now in this case, we want that sort of top bit to be sharp as well. So let's go mark sharp on that. And there we go. Like that. That's a pumpkin to me. All right. Next thing we want to do is inset this. So I'm going to Shift D to clone it and scale to reduce it. Right? Because when we cut the eyes out and stuff, we want that to be a thing. Now, what we do need to do though is because we've copied things with the normal. Now, normals is if you are looking at Unity, all assets will usually, by default, have one side. So the normal side, which is facing, will be opaque, so you can see it, and the non-normal direction, I don't know the best way to describe it, but the non-normal version will be see-through, right? So at the moment, if we just scale it down, all of the normals face out, but when we cut it, we want the normals to be facing in. So for that, we can go to, where is it? Mesh, normals, flip. Now to see your normals, the best way to go down to is face orientation and X-ray off. Blue is good. So in here it's good. But if I flipped that to the original, it would be red. So you wouldn't see that. So it would be kind of useless. So just a note on that. So flip normals. The other thing I'm going to do though is, once again, the eyes will never see, you will never see there we go, the front. So I'm actually going to just get rid of at least the front ones. What's the best way to do that? Let's just do this. And I'm doing that wrong because I need to select the ones we don't want, which is going to be a choice. We'll get to that later, I think. Okay. Now, we could manually make the eyes, or we can sort of do a separate asset and use a Boolean. And I've never done that, so I'm going to do that. Once again, because I make everything custom and by myself, like manually, I don't use things that make things faster. I should. So let's do that. I'm going to use a plane. Now, the reason I'm going to use a plane is because this technically is just one polygon, and then we can edit it. Now, so we need some eyes. Now notice how the pivot point is still in the middle, and that's great because I'm going to use this cheat, which I do use, which on the x-axis will mirror it. So we only have to do it once. So I'm going to grab that, move it down, and then start building the mouth. Now, a useful tool in the mirror is going clipping, because then when it gets in the middle, it just sticks, which is great. Yeah, big, and very evil. Now we're talking. Okay. Now we can start doing things like cut. So let's just do maybe fangs. Put those in there. Let's get rid of these two. Ooh, maybe we'll use the other technique that I really like. Once again, I'm going to make quads here. That sort of sets some of this up really neatly. Nope, it's not at the corner. Just going to do that. Add that. And then get rid of that one. No, I'm not. Why can't I do that? That's just weird. Oh, whatever. Okay. So we have our cool face, and let's add maybe a little bit more detail into the eyes as well. So let's add maybe one here. And maybe an eye. So get rid of that one. Move this one. Cool. All right, that's good. Let's apply that. No. 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 Oh, interesting. Okay. Can't undo a mirror. Okay. Now, the reason I couldn't do it is because in object mode, you can only apply modifiers in object mode. So there's that. Okay, so the approach is... Boolean or this other technique that I really like, which is really good for retopology. Let's do both. How are we going for time? Not great. Actually, on that, let's do on time. So let's use a Boolean and see if that's better. So I'm going to extrude that in the y-axis, make it deep just to make sure it cuts. Press F to close those. Booleans have to be closed, for example. Oh, Boolean assets need to be closed. GY. Okay, so notice how like this doesn't or might not go all the way through. So I'm actually going to keep moving that back to there. That's good. All right. So we want this object to be cut by this object. So with a Boolean, and I think we have difference. Then hide the plane. Cool. That's what we want. Done. And once again, because we need to apply that, so that'll be done. We can get rid of the plane. Delete that one. I'll keep it just in case. But what we do need to do is things like this. So you'll notice here you have two polygons that are very close, or two vertices that are very close. So that's an extra polygon. And it doesn't matter the size of it, it just matters that it exists. So we could either combine, I might do this. Combine all three and then just go merge at last. Less polygons. Same with this one. I'm going to move that down at last. At last. Same with these ones at last. So basically trying to remove any extra polygons that will be in the space or in the Boolean, because it's doing a few things there. So I probably won't go over all of them because that'll take too long, and we're sort of getting quite long as a tutorial. But you might choose things like this one. So I kind of like that one because I like it straight and I want that curve. But I'm going to get rid of the back one because that won't be seen. So I'm going to keep this block, but get rid of this one and things like that. Now this one is interesting. I can actually move that over there, for example, and keep that one. It's a very subtle difference. It's fine. And that's great. So yeah, a lot of these very small tweaks are important for WebGL assets. But let's push that one up there, I think. So I'll do one side and then move on to the unwrapping. Back should be very optimized. Front should be, depends on the situation, to be honest. A lot of the time I will close loops just because things get easier if you're modeling. So that one, that one I can get rid of. I'm going to move that back up there. This one, So this is actually quite a lot of polygons, right? So there's these two, there's the ones in there. So what I might do instead is actually just move all of those three to the last bit, and then that's good to go. Same with this one. I might move that up. Interesting choice for that one. Once again, I'm going to go lean towards optimization over detail, especially, and this is the key thing, these are going to be pretty small. Like this isn't going to be a large asset. So a lot of these decisions are kind of based on how big is the asset going to be in the space. If it's small, very optimized. If it's big and important, that's a bit different. So that one, that one, and that one can go there. So hopefully this makes a lot of sense. That's an interesting one. That's an important, not important. It's a silhouette that might be kind of a thing. Dunk, 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 dunk. But this one is not. Okay. Now, once again, a lot of these might not be seen, so I could actually get rid of a lot of these as well. At least on the front aspect, and then get and then keep the back ones in case people do see, for example. So once again, I could mirror this. That would be easier, quicker, but at this point, I'm kind of already there. Maybe one more. Just delete those. Right. So here's a good example. You would see the blue, but you wouldn't see this. Would see straight through. That said, for the most part, it's going to be very small. You won't see those. That does get a little close, though. So check if you're doing it right. The other option is like overly optimize on the inside because, yeah, the detail won't be there. Just the solidity of it will be. So actually, no, that's okay. Because if you see from this angle, because it's all cut, I'm going to have to kind of keep that. So let's do the optimize approach. Delete those. So that's good. And up here, nope. Let's try just these ones, maybe. Yeah. So it's all solid and a lot less polygons. We could also, and I'm going to, delete every second one of these. Good. And also, I'm going to get rid of, say, these sharper edges. So for that, we go clear sharp. There we go. Okay. So we kind of have our So you'll notice like before you had these kind of things. So it will try to automatically sort of create how the triangles for that. Sometimes you might want to control a bit more control over that. So in that case, you can do that. Now, say for example, the line is there. You can kind of see it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the stream, but the triangle is there. Now I want it to go there. I'm sure there's a button that does it automatically, but I will usually just manually make it and then delete it. So dissolve edge. Sometimes it goes back. So let's have a quick look. Mesh. Normals. Flip. Actually, let's do this one because I like this a lot. Add modifier. Weighted normal. Corner angle. What do we got? No, corner angle and for angle. And keep sharp. So sometimes this is a really useful tool as well. You can play with that. It doesn't do as well as I get, so it depends on the asset. So yeah, might look into that one because that would be useful to know. Usually it resets, it doesn't reset it, but yeah. I might actually do that as well. And once again, go X-ray, grab both of these and move them across a bit. Just to line that up. That's good. Okay. Now it's blue because I've got face orientation on, and then we're back to this. So, of course, I would clean it up and do all that good on all of the things, but I would like to get back to the material and get this sort of closer to finished. So we already have a pumpkin texture, and because we sort of modeled it from scratch, but you can already see that it actually isn't that bad. So let's do this. I'm going to grab all of the these ones because these are going to be our looped texture, if that makes sense. So I'm going to actually go mark seam on these ones because we're going to split it up again. That's probably not going to cut, so I'm going to have to go manually on these ones. I'm just going to do the front because the interior is all the different color. So I'm going to go down to here, hopefully there. Yep. That one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Go mark seam. Cool. Let's do a seam on the front of these eyes as well. Now, because of how it's all, like, it's quite complicated, when you clean the models, it gets a lot easier. So this is a good example of, what would you call it? Where loops become very important because that was very easy to collect, if that makes sense. Collect? Is that the word? Anyway. And once again, put that up there. So mark seam. But over here, where we haven't organized it so much, I can't just use Alt and select an edge. So in this case, I'm going to use Control, so it goes between the lines, between the points selected as quick as possible, if that makes sense. And hopefully it does. Mark seam. All right. Same with the mouth. So this might take a little bit longer. Not so long. But yeah, be careful with this one because, so for example, we went there and then went down, but supposedly this line is faster. So I'm just going to go shift for that one and then continue, which seems to work. Once again, too much of a shortcut. There and there. Nope. There. Mark seam. Let's put this one there. Mark seam. All right. Hopefully This works. Right, so I got our edges, and that's good. Our interior is a bit complicated, but that's fine. So let's get our interior. Ah, those are connected still. Why? Ah, because it's one thing. So that makes sense. Same. So yeah, mark seams is always a little bit of a like what we call it here and there, but like using the UV to give you a hint as to what's going on usually does the trick. Now this one, that one, why? Now a useful tool here, if you click on this, if I select this, nothing changes over here. But if I put the arrow UV sync selection on, and grab all of these ones that I'm sort of trying to figure out why it's connected, I can sort of figure out why it is. So if I move that, oh, okay, cancel that. Yeah. That's fine. Okay. Because, yeah, these are also... Yes, I'm sure you get the picture. So, for the purposes of time, I'm going to quickly do the orange because we've kind of done all this before, just to get an idea of what we're doing with this. So I'm going to get rid of that because we don't need that anymore. Do that. Grab all of the out exterior pumpkin bits, which is these ones. Put them up there. That's brown. So we're going to move that down here, like that. This is also in the brown, so let's just scale that down, put it in there. Out here would actually be up here because this tiles as well. So you actually want to get that in there, like so. So we've got that. It's already starting to look good. And then, once again, we got these. Now, the interesting approach to these ones, though, is, one, we're going to do that. And we're also going to sort of combine them all so we can just save time. That said, it's a bit broken there. So I'm going to... That one's fine. Now, the element here, though, which is a bit of an interesting one, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've got an idea, actually, but I might need some more editing, is how do we get this straight line curved to the overall result? So I have a couple of ideas, but I might need a tweak on the model as well. So let's do that. Now I could, yeah, no, I'll just scale it up. Let's grab these as well. So might make these slightly down here though, because they're a bit more complicated. So let's go back to island. Once again, if I mirrored this, this would be, I would only have to do it half, but this is fine. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to keep them separate, but I'm going to keep them in line. So let's do that way. Okay. So let's scale that up. More. Like so. Pumpkin. Issue. That is this one, I'm assuming. So let's just, yeah, there we go. So scale that down a bit to about there. And then we're good. So we can put that back over there now. All right. And that's kind of fine. I actually like that. That's fine. So this is a very good pumpkin, to be honest. Now, say for example, what I might do is create a darker area, so you have the light on the rim here, but on the inside it's darker. That said, if I was using light mapping, I might not worry about that on the grounds that the light would be. So if you had like this shadowed, it would actually create it for you. So once again, depending on how you do things. Yeah, done pretty much. Now, one thing I will do just quickly, because I'm kind of interested to see it, is maybe I want this texture to line with the edges, if that makes sense. So at the moment, it sort of all goes in, and this won't work for the edges. So what I was thinking of doing is basically, what do you call? Adding a polygon at the end, purely so I can have more control over the whole thing. But I'll be able to show you kind of the goal. So let's align Y that. Yep, that's good. Except for maybe that one, but we'll worry about that later. And I'm going to align Y this. And this. Let's go Y on that. Now, there will be warping and there will be interesting things on that, but what it does, though, is you can see the difference. So the front ones, because this is all over here and stay the same, you'll have that. But with this approach, you're actually getting more of that sort of thing there, but you do get a little bit of warping as well. So I actually don't mind the front. It's actually better. And I like the blotchiness of it. That's actually kind of cool. So that would be an undo. The other option is I just sort of do some of it. So kind of use this approach. So you sort of get that effect there. So balance between this and that, and then you can sort of do some interesting things with that. Now, the other catch is I've actually kind of done the colors wrong. I need to maybe do dark in there and light in there. So let's do that real quick, because we can. Gradient, perfected, switch those two. Cool. I could even put a line in there, because I think that would be kind of nice, but I'm not going to. Once again, running out of time here. I'm not running out, but you know what I mean. File, export, quick export, over the top of pumpkin. Yes. Blender. Now we do actually have to update the picture here. So go pumpkin diffuse, and then it will come across as that. So in this case, oddly enough, this looks better than that. So your approach to it is kind of up to you, to be honest. But I actually kind of liked it better before. Up to you. I'll leave it to you. So either way, that wraps it for this. So we've gone over, to be honest, a lot of stuff. And just as This is my issue. I will 100% do this a lot. So, just as a quick example of texture sampling, palette texturing. That's the one. Instead of being loops and trim sheet approaches, I would just be creating a pixel, and then I would move that into a single color asset. So you would have something like this. So that it's kind of the same thing, to be honest. And another one, actually, let's do this one because this might be interesting. Scale x0. And you have that kind of effect, which isn't too bad. So there are many ways to utilize trim sheets to come up with really interesting results. The best result, I think, was actually the first one. But like in 5 minutes, I've talked about like 3 different ways that you can do texturing using trim sheets or palette texturing to create unique effects, which is why I think it's a lot of fun. So highly recommended, highly optimized, really, really good for WebGL spaces. All right. That said, I'm going to wrap it up there, I think. Over the next week, I'm going to be taking all of those assets that we talked about today and more, and then putting them into the Halloween space for an event that we're doing for Halloween. So stay tuned for that one, and have a good day. Happy building. Thanks for watching. See ya.